Hello everyone, welcome back to the table and welcome to Skyrim. This is a replacement series to what Svaknir was due to technical issues. I explained all of this in my channel / series update video that I uploaded last week. And this video is of course scriptless because I don't actually have anything planned as far as what I'll be saying. I mean, I do have a list here to keep me somewhat in order, but this is a prologue prologue video. So it is, point of this video is meant to be like mod breakdown video, as well as giving you the basic background of this character. I'll start with the mods first. It's very similar to what Svaknir's mod list was, with a few differences. Mostly because this is a different type of character. Not so much of a warrior, more of a ranger type. So still has combat capability, just not the brute Hulk juggernaut type of fighter. More of your lean, agile, but can still get in melee without much of an issue type of play style. As far as my core mods, the mods that I installed to be the center of this mod list, that if I didn't have any other mods around, it would be these few mods. Few but very important mods. First of all, I'll start with, I guess, interface / sound mods. As far as the actual proper interface, I'm using the Nordic UI interface mod. Some things have changed. Looks like the journal menu technically has changed, just very slightly. The interface is definitely what's more prominent in that department. Nordic UI does have its own interface sounds, but that got replaced by a mod called Lorcon Soundtrack Replacer. Now, not only does it replace the vanilla soundtrack with a lot of really good musical content that makes the listening of the game a lot more interesting, well, just different. It also does make its own interface changes, or interface sound changes. It actually overrides Nordic UI. The one who made the mod maker of Lorcon requested that you, as far as load order is concerned, you have it below Nordic UI. Also, so you don't have any other mods that would normally replace the vanilla soundtrack, because that's what it's meant to do. I also have this is more of like main quest related stuff, because I still want a playthrough where the main quest is prevalent and actually meant to be played through, sort of like have a natural progression of character growth as far as story goes, that the game intended there to be, as well as putting my own twist onto it. Helping with that, I do have a few mods for that. There is the Cult of the World Eater, which is a mod that overhauls Alduin and his abilities and stats. And in so doing that, sort of as a follow-up to that, I have a mod called Defeat the Dragon Cult. The point of this mod, anyway, is to put in place a book out in the world. I actually don't know where it is in person. I want to kind of keep it for myself as a surprise, as well as for you guys. But he'll come across a book somehow that describes the different dragon priests and their role in helping Alduin. accomplish his destiny as being the world leader. Mechanically, what happens is that once you read that book, it places map markers where all the dragon priests are, so that there's an actual quest for you to actually go and defeat the dragon cult, as it says. And to help tie into what it does with the cult of the world eater is that when you defeat each dragon priest, it actually reduces certain stats, because each dragon priest gives him a set number or a set stat or ability boost. So once you defeat them, those boosts and ability increases go away, attribute increases go away. So the idea is that you would defeat the dragon priest before you go and actually defeat the boss, which is Dwemer. Even then, he's still going to be a bit powerful, but not as powerful as he would be with the dragon priest still alive. And I believe he's, even with the dragon priest all gone, he is still more powerful than he was in vanilla, I believe. I hope that's how it is anyway. And then as a follow-up for that, I do have a mod called the Dragon Cult, a Draugr overhaul. It's created by the same individual who made the Defeat the Dragon Cult mod. But this is a mod that basically makes Draugr more powerful, more of an actual, hey, you should think twice before going into a Nordic ruin type of thought process. One great example of this is when I was playtesting this mod list, well, a variant of this mod list, like almost a whole month ago at this point. I was actually explaining this in this Fafnir Let's Play, but basically I was just going through. It was the first set of Draugr you come across in Bleak Falls Barrow. There was one that showed up, no weapons in hand, but he was able to cast oak flesh on himself. So it was really hard to actually do damage to him because his AC was high. And this is like the first ruin you go into and you encounter these Draugr, so you don't have, if you have steel equipment, you're lucky. Basically it overhauls the ranking system of the Draugr, so you don't just get Draugr and then Restless Draugr, then Draugr White. You don't get that kind of stuff. You actually get other ranks that it just allows the ranks to have more variety of Draugr and their abilities. I forgot to write it down on the list, but I do actually have another mod. I don't exactly know what it is 100%, the name of it anyway, but it is basically the Cult of the World Eater concept, except for Miraak. So meaning when you go to Solstheim, there are 2 dragon priests, I believe, on Solstheim, and I think that's what it said on the mod page. There are 2 dragon priests that if you defeat them, Miraak also gets weaker. But on the flip side, there is something, I believe if you kill his dragon companion, his little worm companion, if you end up killing him for whatever reason, I think that's who it's referring to, he actually gains bonuses. I assume that is because when he's slain, Miraak, I assume, because he's dragonborn as well, absorbs his power instead of you getting it. Even though you get the soul because of the mechanic, he would get he would just get more powerful because of, I guess, dragon tied to their rider type concept. So that's for those types of mods. And then I have a bunch of just mechanic overhaul mods. It's actually a chunk of, just counting real quick, I think it's like 13 to 15 mods, if I'm just doing math real quick, but it is called the Simon Suite. I did mention this in this Fafnir playthrough, just not as thoroughly, and it was when they came up instead of actually giving its proper justice and actually giving proper time to actually explain what the mod or the suite is. So you have Adamant, which is a perk overhaul mod. And it does a great job at basically, instead of making it like an overhaul like crazy, like Percus Maximus or even Ordinator, it just takes the concept of what the vanilla perk tree is and does a good job at just flushing it out to make it a bit more interesting. not so linear. There's also Aetherius, which is a race overhaul mod. Actually, perfect example of this, I picked a Breton for this character. You will see, oh, as part of that, there is an option that spells are actually altered based on your race. Like, for example, Nords don't actually start with magic at all. Bretons, for example, normally you would get, you know, flames and healing in vanilla, but instead you keep the healing. And Breton, you do have the Spectral Wolf, but they add oak flesh because, oh, let me favor that. Oak flesh because Bretons are meant to be very magically protective of themselves. Also, that's a reference, I believe, to both Morrowind and Oblivion, where Bretons actually had their innate racial ability of casting shield on themselves. So that's a good shout out to that. Also, spell warding, Breton ancestry. Your magic resistance is increased by 25%, and you have a 10% chance to absorb the magicka from incoming spells. So that's just a really on the nose concept of what a Breton is, but it still works. Also, I think, didn't Bretons in Morrowind have an absorb magicka spell or ability? Honestly, don't remember. I could be thinking of Morrowind Rebirth. Anyway, that's just an example of what Aetherius does. Apothecary is an alchemy overhaul. I don't 100% know what it does specifically because I've played with the mod for a while now. But at face value anyway, it looks like the alchemy system is the same. So I don't know if it alters like experience based on stuff. I don't know if it changes like cost of potions, things like that. I think it actually might change the values, possibly. I don't 100% remember. Because with this mod setup, they actually do have it so that health, magic, and stamina potions actually do regenerate over time instead of an instantaneous, you have this amount of whatever attribute restored to you immediately. It actually does take time. I don't know if that is due to Apothecary, or I do have Blade and Blunt, so I don't know if that's a part of that. The next one is Arena, which is an encounter zone overhaul. So basically the random encounters that you come across in Skyrim are different. I believe it also makes it so that as far as when the Civil War goes on, there are going to be random Imperial Stormcloak skirmishes going on. There's Artificer, the next mod, which is an artifact overhaul. I assume that those are artifacts in relation to like Daedric artifacts, special weapons like, what's the dragon one you get? Dragon Slayer, the unimaginative Dragon Slayer sword that you get in the main quest, things like that. I assume it overhauls all of those types of weapons and equipment that you can get. Blade and Blunt, which is a combat overhaul. It overhauls stamina usage, I believe damage output, so it's kind of similar to Smilodon in that sense, or Wildcat. There's Candlehearth, which is I am getting tired. That is from the Starfrost mod of the Simonrin suite, which we will get to. Unfortunately, I can't just pause it because scripts are just gonna keep running in the background. If I could, I would. I'll manage that when I get in game. But anyway, Candlehearth, it's an inn overhaul. You have anything from, depending which inn you go to, prices actually vary. If you go to somewhere like Riften, I believe it's cheaper than if you were to go to, actually better example, if you were to go to Sleeping Giant Inn, it's 50 gold a night, but if you were going to go to the Bannered Mare, it's 75 a night. But in each inn, you have 3 categories of essentially renting a room, either for the night, for 3 days, or a week, or a whole month. Whoa, I bumped my mouse. That was not fun. So you have an option to essentially rent ahead of time, so you're not doing it every single night. There is next the Gourmet mod, which is a food overhaul, food crafting, food. I assume it's also meant to make the food a little behave differently so that it works with Starfrost. With that though, there is a plugin with Gourmet, well, with Starfrost, that makes gourmet food work with it to get what is a well-fed bonus, and I'll explain that if it does come up in the game. It's not a necessary bonus, but it is a good one to get when you can. The next one is Journeyman. That is a fast travel overhaul. So I can no longer just fast travel wherever I want to. I actually need to craft a travel pack, which has like leather, firewood, I believe iron, things like that, because it then reflects the fact that I am actually traveling. One thing I'm surprised isn't in the recipe is something like bread or cheese to represent rations on your travel, but each time you are done using that travel pack, it is actually depleted. It's used in that fast travel. So it's smarter to really prepare ahead of time, and if you want to basically travel somewhere, do it on foot, because you can't travel to undiscovered places yet. But once you get to where you're going, you can either have a travel pack ready if it's a place you can't craft a travel pack right away, or if it's from like city to city, you can, once you're in the city you went to, you can travel or craft a travel pack then, and then fast travel back to where you came from. So there are a few ways you can actually make that work, but it's a very immersive way for you to still fast travel, but without just doing it for the sake of doing it. The next mod is Man Beast, which is werewolf overhaul. Man Beast, as far as by name, I assume it also overhauls werebears. Basically just lycanthropy overhaul. I'm not 100% sure what it does exactly because I haven't been a werewolf yet using that mod. The next one is Mundus, Standing Stone overhaul. As we approach each standing stone, you will notice that all the descriptions will be different. The bonuses will be altered, and in my opinion, in a good, refreshing way. The main ones that you come across in the game are the Guardian Stones, and so the Thief, Mage, and Warrior. Each one gives you a 50 point increase to stamina, magicka, and health, respectively. And then each one gives you just a slightly different take on what is beneficial to that archetype. Those are the only standing stones I've come across so far with the mod, but I'm sure all the others are awesome in their own way. And from what I understand, they are taking a lot of inspiration as far as mechanically how those types of, or how the standing stones in earlier Elder Scrolls games worked. The next mod is Mysticism, which is a magic overhaul. I believe magic in the sense of possibly where spells are put in their categories of level, as well as maybe cost of spells, cost of tomes, things like that. Again, it's something that I've technically played with magic with the mod, but I haven't actually paid attention mechanically to what's actually going on. Another overhaul is Scion, which is the vampire overhaul. Again, I haven't been a vampire with this mod yet. I assume it has... I guess one thing to keep in mind is that the whole point of this Simon Rin suite is to take the vanilla mechanics and just plus it. Just make it a little different, a little unique, but still functionally basically vanilla. Just giving it a fresh breath of life into it to make it different and interesting. So I don't think it'll go as far as an extent of an overhaul as Sacrosanct or Better Vampires. I don't think it'll do that type of overhaul stuff. It could actually have different ranks of vampires now that I think about it. The next mod is Storm Crown, which is a shout overhaul. The only thing I know about this mod is that it actually adds a separate perk tree, which when you get to the Throat of the World for the first time and you encounter the Greybeards, you're given a power to use to access this perk tree. Basically, you go into meditative state where you can then reflect and use perks. I think it's specifically like Dragonborn perks, similar to werewolf and vampire perks. Perk points as opposed to using your own like player perk points, if that makes sense. But you get to increase perks. Technically, the speech the speech skill tree has its own branch of shouts and how they work. It's just the Dragonborn specific perk tree extends that even further. Second to last mod is Thaumcraft, which is an enchanting overhaul. It changes terminologies of how things are used, or terminologies of how they're presented on the interface, as well as, I believe, XP you can get from disenchanting, as well as enchanting. I think that's as far as I'm aware it goes. I haven't done much enchanting with it yet. And then the last mod is, another mod is Sorcerer, or Sorcery, something like that. It's a staff overhaul. I am now hungry. We'll get to that mod in just a minute. Basically, the staff overhaul just overhauls all the staffs and how they work, I believe in relation to not only their abilities specifically, but also how they work with with the related skill. Like, for example, if you're to use a staff of fireball, its description is going to be different, how they function will be different, maybe recharge values and how they recharge will be different, but also how it is linked to your destruction skill will be slightly different. I believe that's how that works. Now the final mod, bringing up to all of this notification shenanigans that have been going up, that is Starfrost. Starfrost is Simon Wrynn team's attempt at making a slightly different, in my opinion, more user-friendly survival mode. The benefits, or the penalties for having certain effects, are not nearly as punishing. For example, I am hungry. In the vanilla game, that would significantly affect your stamina to awful effect. Here, it's just as simple as your health, magicka, and stamina regenerate 10% slower. That's not awful at the start anyway. If you keep on going without going with being hungry, that percentage will keep going up, and it's not fun for anyone. When you are tired, it affects your, I believe it is your magic and stamina. That's when your thresholds start to deplete. Like the first tier, your magic and stamina reduced by 10%. So it'll have, the fill-in bar like it does in vanilla. Although with my UI mod, it's a little different. But anyway, it still has that margin of basically telling you only have this much health or magic and stamina left. And then on top of that, there is also an injury plugin that plays along with Blade and Blunt, which, depending on how, I believe it's mostly critical hits, where you can get injuries from opponents, and that is what affects your health. And then there is a bonus, also with Starfrost. You will see, it's not here anymore because I'm no longer rested, but there are still rest bonuses depending on if you're rested, well rested. And then there's even one with what's the term called, like lover's rest, where if you are married and you happen to sleep in the same bed as your significant other, you get experience bonuses. Basically, you get you don't get you learn X amount of types of skills, or all skills X amount faster. You just get a certain percentage of experience more on top of what you're doing, instead of it happening faster. That's for rest. When you are well fed, which is a bonus that if you eat food that regenerates health, stamina, and magicka all at the same time, you get a well fed bonus, which gives you that same percentage of experience. Yep, I told you. As I told you, the bars got darker, and I now only have 90% available of my stuff. Anyway, when you have those 3 foods, you have a 10% experience bonus. And then with food, that bonus actually goes up because there's fed, well fed, and then I believe lover's meal or something like that, to that effect. Not a euphemism. That was said, I believe. But it's if you happen to eat a meal that was prepared by whoever you're married to. So it gives you more incentive to, it might not be a bad idea to get married in the game. I don't know if this character will specifically. It does give you some sense of revenue as well as, you know, other benefits like that, I suppose. Mechanical benefits. I don't know, we'll see. So those are my major core mods that, if I had no other mods in here, these would be the mods that I would just stick with and I would be happy. Vanilla plus all the way. Now with those out of the way, all of the other mods that I have, I could talk about them, but we would be here for, I'm not going to say for hours, but it would at least be hour and a half video that I would be uploading. Basically all the other mods that I have are like mechanical overhauls, mod framework mods, your usual texture overhauls, weather overhauls, lighting overhauls. I mean, all of that is in Climate of Tamriel. The weather and the lighting. I have sound overhauls on top of Lorcon. I have sounds of Skyrim. I might actually even download immersive sounds, or yeah, immersive sounds possibly. Anyway, I have mods like your immersive armors, immersive weapons, all of those types of mods. Harvesting overhauls, Hunterborn. Actually, Hunterborn is a core mod. I completely forgot to add to the list. Hunterborn. This character will be a hunter. I will explain that in his backstory. He is a hunter, so he will start the game being somewhat proficient in hunting. I changed his stats so that he's more experienced than nothing. He's apprentice level, so it's the second level of hunting, so it won't be as difficult for me to run Hunterborn, but also it won't be annoying for you to watch a hunter fail when they should have some experience. What else is actually important for mods? I will try my best with this video to actually have a list of all of my mods in load order. All of this is in Vortex. Actually, before I make that list, I might go to Loot and have it sort the plugins to see if there is any kind of change. There shouldn't be much if Vortex does it automatically and already knows what to do and is smart enough to just do it. But I will have my mod list in the description of this video, so then if you have any questions about mods and things like that, I won't include links because they are all in the Nexus. So if you look up the name of the mod, it will show up. If you do have questions of as far as settings that I picked and things like that, I'm more than willing to discuss with you on a personal level with that. I would just send if you ask me in a DM, I will respond. I'm not going to record me going through my entire mod list with all of my options stuff because that would take an entire 6-hour video. But yeah, I think that's what I'll do for the mod list. As far as this individual, this man, his name is Uthastyr. Uthastyr here is a Breton. His family came from High Rock, but in the Dragentail Mountains, which I believe is the mountain range that is bordering Skyrim and High Rock. With all of that, he was actually raised in a little bit of a cult group of individuals who had not complete association with, but didn't mind allowing to accommodate those of the Forsworn group of cult fanatics. But it was still an environment that from a young or at a young age, Uthastyr wasn't uncomfortable with any of the Forsworn stuff. He just didn't know what it was and what it actually meant for him. But as he got older and he became more aware of, for him, his moral compass of right and wrong, from a personal perspective, he just felt like what was going on wasn't right. So when he was coming of age and he was about to be inducted into this cult group to do ceremony where it would ultimately require him to sacrifice someone. He thought it would have just been an animal or something, but no, it was an actual person he was going to have to do a sacrifice to. and he was not about that. When he found out that it was going to be a humanoid, a mer or man, that he was going to have to sacrifice, the night of, he managed to kind of slip back into his older, when he was younger, sort of like hidey holes, crawl space kind of concept of hiding places that he managed to find when he was young. He did escape using those. It was hard for him to do because, you know, he's grown up, but he did it because he didn't want to be part of that life. He didn't realize that's what his life would lead to. So he technically is on the run, not in a legal term, but definitely he has no intentions of going back to the Reach anytime soon. However, he didn't have anywhere else to go. He was not familiar with Skyrim as a whole. All he knew was the Reach, and even then the small places that Forsworn and those associated with them would hang out and make their livings way of life. But he never even traveled to Markarth. That's how little of Skyrim he actually knows. But anyway, out of desperation and out of the need of survival, he did end up picking up hunting. Not only as a you could label it as a hobby, but it was definitely just he needed to do it to survive, as opposed to, hey, I like doing it in my pastime, I'm just going to go hunting. It wasn't like that. He also does fish, which luckily there is fishing in this game. It'll make that role playing a little more easy. But we will. So he's traveled Skyrim to some extent. He went to the place that had the most game, and this has been probably 5-10 years since he fled. So he's been around Skyrim a little bit, and he's experimented as far as where the best food supplies are, the best game, the best people to work with. So he actually found himself in Whiterun Hold, because that's where it has the most population of deer, most population of wolves and other things like that. A lot of waterways, mostly rivers, but that still works fine for him as far as going fishing. He actually prefers, if it was possible in the game, he would actually be doing something similar to fly fishing, as opposed to sitting on the bank of a lake or pond going fishing. He would prefer to be in the river, catching fish. We will meet him in Whiterun Hold, and with his surprise, he wakes up one morning and he is going to find that the settlement that he was next to had a lot of commotion. He woke up to a very loud roar of a creature he's never heard before, and he even heard sounds he's never heard before. He doesn't know what a flying creature sounds like, so he doesn't even know the word to use to describe what wings sound like when they're beating in the sky. I mean, birds are birds, but they don't make the same type of sound as these wings did. So out of worry, because it was really close, like within a few hundred feet, this commotion was happening, and he will wake up to that sound of roars and very loud wings flapping in the wind. And yeah, that is where his story will start. If you've played with the alternate start mod, you probably know where I'm choosing to pick my start, but if not, there will be an awesome surprise for you guys waiting. That'll do it for this prologue video. As far as Bez's backstory, that's the most fundamental baseline background I could come up with, that would justify his experience of hunting, but also his potential perspective if he's not 100% sure of what Skyrim actually is yet, even though it has been a number of years since he left his home. He's definitely been a recluse. Anyway, and if there's anything you would like to know, you can of course ask me questions and I'll come up with stuff because I love interactive storytelling. It's one reason I like D&D, because it's a cooperative between me as a DM whenever I DM and my players. There's a nice narrative, back and forth banter sometimes. And we can of course do the same thing in the comments here. If you have any questions, you can always pop them down in a comment. I will respond. Or if there are enough questions come up, I might just make a separate video sort of off to the side, with just explaining all of these questions or answering all these questions. I hope you look forward to this new series of Skyrim. I certainly do. It will be a bit grindy. I will say that much. There will be a bit of grind, mostly because of what Hunterborn is. It's a very grindy mod, but also with other mods that I have in place, it will make it difficult to acquire items because economy has changed to be more expensive. I hope to see you in the first official video of the series, and until then, have a good day, and I will see you back at the table. Bye bye.